All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, one and all, to yet another Sync Focus Zoom call here. Can you believe we are in May? We're almost halfway through the year. At the very beginning of this year, many of you guys signed on with Sync Focus and you made a decision and you said, I want to keep sync and production music as a sort of top focus for my life. And a few of you have stuck with that. I can see with our results, which we're going to go through here today. Today will be mostly a review session kind of a day. As I was just showing a lot of the members that, these are the recent uploads for this month, for at least for last month, for April. And still quite a few members are consistently showing up, but a lot of members have been falling off and kind of, whoops, didn't upload this month, didn't upload the last 2 months, or even maybe even 3 months. And so it happens. And what I want to also just make sure that I'm always reminding you of is it's not about being perfect. And if you skip a month or two, not ideal, obviously. We would like to be consistently showing up and consistently, putting our completed tracks here. But if you miss a month, don't take it as a sign that you need to give up or forget about it and the whole year's over and sync is done for you. All it means is that there might be a bit of a course correction that needs to be done. And maybe that could be an interesting wake-up call to figure out how do you shift and rearrange your life to reprioritize music and sync again if you can, right? I know life just throws us curveballs all the time, especially with kids and family and work and other obligations. So again, it's not about perfection, just about progress, just about moving forward and constantly nudging yourself forward and just keeping with your consistency as best you possibly can. But for all of you that have been consistently showing up on all these Zoom calls for these last 5 months and have been consistently putting in your tracks, there's a few of you doing that. Props to you guys. That's not an easy thing to do, and I think that's something that you guys should really be just giving yourself a big pat on the back, that it just makes a big difference to show and prove that consistency, that you can make a decision and show up for it every single month, hopefully every single week as well, because that's really what this industry is going to require, is that you just mostly show up with halfway decent sync music. And as long as you can do those two things, you can start to see some amazing opportunities sort of unfold in your lap. But you got to be there. You got to be in the position to actually take advantage of those. So that's what we're going to do today, is just basically click on a few links. Obviously, last month was about collaborations. This month, same thing. I wanted to give a little bit of space for you guys to network, collaborate, use that collaboration feature in Sync Academy, which I saw some of you guys doing already, to create some interesting new partnerships and just experiment and try new things and reach out to new people and try new styles and blend new styles, whatever you think would be interesting for you to try as a collaboration. Keep doing it if you've been trying it. If you haven't done it yet in April, this would be a good month in May to start doing that. Use our collaborate feature in Sync Academy. If you guys are not familiar with where that is, it's right here on the left side of your screen. You'll see the collaborate tab right underneath the main feed. And this is where you can basically see all the opportunities from our members who are looking for somebody to collaborate with, okay? You can basically just sort things through your genre, whichever genre you produce, and that'll only feature the ones that have people that are looking for somebody like what you can offer. Well, we don't have any orchestral, so we need some orchestral guys. But you can essentially go figure out and narrow down what you're looking for. Or if you'd like to create an offer, you just click on this create an offer button right here. And this is where you can essentially just create, something like an open call to say, I am a XYZ producer. I'm looking for somebody to collaborate with. Here's a sample of my work. Let me know what you do. Let's start talking. Let's start communicating. So please do use this collaborate feature. It was designed for you guys to use. It is built for you guys to essentially find each other and create some interesting opportunities to work with each other. So that's going to be a great part of it. Now, right before we jump into today's reviews, to kind of check out some more of your guys' tracks you've been working on. And yes, these are reviews for those of you that are on YouTube. We love having you guys here, but these reviews are exclusively for those that are in Sync Academy. So if you're not in Sync Academy, you're not participating in this, then you're not going to be able to get one of these reviews. Sorry, these are only for Sync Academy members only. But I do want to show you guys a quick little preview. Once again, I'm loving the teasing videos that I've been doing of my app that I've been diligently working on for essentially the last 2 months now. And it's called Sync Match. I've essentially been hinting at it, giving you guys some previews of it, kind of talking about what its features are going to be. But this is essentially one of the killer features, the killer feature that I think will completely change the game for us in a variety of ways. Essentially, what this app is going to do is essentially going to be keeping track of all the placements that are happening on the top 10 US TV channels, and not only just knowing which tracks and which libraries supplied those placements, but also knowing what genre were they in, what mood were they conveying, what instruments were included, what tempo were they, what key were they in. So any type of music metadata, including was it instrumental, was it vocal, was it male or female vocals, right? Anything that we can essentially identify with metadata tagging, we are going to be able to get all those insights and data. So building on top of all of that, we can essentially have you guys upload a track of yours or multiple tracks of yours if you want to, and find out specifically where you fit in terms of all of that data, all those placements, what those genres are, those moods, those keys, tempos, instruments, all that stuff that's going on with this master placement sheet that we have fueling this app. You can upload one of your tracks, we can tag your track and tell you this is where you fit in. So I wanted to show you guys very quickly how this could potentially be very beneficial for you. And again, this is going to be available, I would say, in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully. I still have some last minute things to do, and there's still quite a few little things to iron out for this, but I do think this is going to be an amazing app for you guys to get your hands on very, very soon. So when you guys log in and you guys start using this app, hopefully very soon, you're going to see your dashboard. Okay, so in your dashboard is where you can essentially get the results for the tracks that you've already uploaded and gotten tagged and paired with. So that's where this tag match tab is going to basically allow you to do that. So this is where you can just click and drag or just upload any MP3 of a track that you've composed. Okay, so it's got to be MP3, got to use high quality, and it's got to be at least 60 seconds. So it can be a demo, but you got to give us at least 60 seconds for it's an AI tagging model to understand your music, analyze it, and apply tags to it. And just so you know, nothing's being trained off of your music. We're not long storing your tracks at all, longer than 30 days, and there's definitely not going to be any generative music created by training off of your music. So none of that is included with this. So just be aware. I'm very sensitive to that as well, and I don't want any of that going on here. All this AI model does is it listens to your music, analyzes it, and applies metadata, and that's it. And then we basically delete it off our server after 30 days. So that's kind of what the extent of the AI training is doing. So once you've uploaded it, you get your results. It basically takes about 5 minutes, and you get your results in your dashboard. And this is kind of an example of potentially one of the results that you could possibly get. Okay, so this is just one of the tracks I recently was testing out to see how it would work. This is just a track called Lionheart. It's from actually an old Syndicate member from Paul. And the first thing that you can do is, and what you'll see is that the model has already applied useful tags for this track. So we have genre, we have subgenre, we have the moods, we have advanced moods, basically more in granular detail. What main instruments are being featured in it? Is it vocal or instrumental? This has vocals, male. The character tags. Character tags are kind of something that you would use for sync licensing. A lot of times a client will say, we want something that sounds powerful. What's the sound of powerful? Well, this model can certainly pick that up, okay? And also the movement in terms of, is there something happening on screen that would work well with this particular track? So it's stomping and driving. So I'm not going to play this track because I want to, not play a track that Paul hasn't given me permission to play it. So I'm not going to do that here on my channel. But essentially, you guys will be able to test this out for yourself, and I'll have some examples where I'll show you exactly. I'll play it, and I'll show you how accurate this stuff is. But trust me, it's very accurate. It's a really, really high quality tagging system we have in place. But we also want to give you some suggested sync-friendly titles. So sometimes many of you work really hard on your tracks, and then you don't put any effort or very little effort. You don't know where to get started with a track title. So this is basically going to automatically analyze these tags that are associated with it and give you a couple of suggestions to get you started. You might not love these. Maybe you do. You want to use them. They're all yours to use, okay? And we're also going to be fine-tuning this because I want to make these even stronger than this. These aren't a bad start, but I think they can even get better. So I'm going to basically learn how to, that's one of the last things I'm tweaking with right now. We also could give you a very accurate track description. So if you need this, I remember having to do this for a lot of sync libraries, is they wanted a track text description. I don't know how much of that is still needed today, but sometimes somebody might need it from you. If you need to include it with some metadata, you've got all these points of metadata, you've got some titles, and you've got your description. So all this stuff is just going to be included with the results. But here's where it gets really fun. So we can give you an in-demand score right here, okay? So depending on how many different TV shows use your particular genre of music, we can tell you, down to one, almost none, or maybe only one show use your style of music. So it's just not high in demand. Doesn't mean it can't get placed, doesn't mean there might be a place for it, but in terms of quantity, numbers of different types of opportunities for your particular music, one would mean not many, up to 10, meaning all over the place. We have a lot of TV shows and a lot of opportunities that use your particular style of music. So this track is at a 7. So not bad. It's a pretty, anything above 5, essentially, you're probably in better shape than if you're below 5, right? We'll give you a suggested use case. This is obviously just us taken our best guess at to, what your genre, what your mood is, kind of what's happening in the track, where we feel it fits best. This does not mean that this track cannot be placed in a variety of other use cases. That's up for a music editor or a supervisor to decide. But based on our, my essentially, kind of expertise in this business, what I think essentially this kind of track could be used for. So if you've ever wondered, where would this be used for? This app can essentially start pointing you in the right direction. Here's where it gets really interesting. So we can actually show you which top tracks in your genre have been placed the most, okay? So if you've wanted to know, all right, well, I make, this one obviously was, rock kind of metal sort of tune. What's getting placed the most out there in this rock metal world? Well, right there, we can tell you the top 5 tracks with the number of placements that each one has received. Also with a link to the Spotify full track, so you can listen to it, maybe use it as your reference if you'd like to. You can also click to listen to an MP3 snippet of the track being placed on that particular channel. So you can actually hear it, how it was being placed. Was it background? Was it being featured? Where was it landing? You learn a lot from that. And of course, you know exactly right here which particular library was supplying it. And these are all direct links to that particular library. So that could be really useful to find out, hey, this is kind of where I fit in. This next section is actually even more specific to you, because now what we're doing is not just looking at the top tracks within your genre, but now we're looking at the top tracks within your genre and your mood combined. So you probably won't have as many tracks because this is basically combining 2 different elements. But you will definitely notice that, there's going to be a wide variety of different styles of rock and metal up here. They won't maybe necessarily sound exactly like your track, but you'll probably find that if you get some matches down here, that you will find stuff that sounds very, very close to what your track is doing. And what this solves is, for those of you that are looking for reference tracks, you probably go to library websites and you listen to a variety of different tracks. You type in your genre. And there's a lot of great music, and you're probably wondering, but which ones of these have been placed, though? I'd rather use the ones that have been placed as my reference tracks. How do I know that? Well, you usually don't. I mean, you can look at maybe what their recent, they can talk about the recent placements on their website, but they're not going to list all of them. And if they don't showcase a placement using your particular genre, you're kind of SOL. There's just nothing there for you to really know. This answers that, though. This track has been placed in the last month. And by the way, all this data is updated every single month. This is very current, recent data. So you know that this track has recently been placed, how many times it got placed, and you can actually go listen to it immediately, listen to a snippet of it being placed, and know which company, which library, this is basically a sub-publisher out of APM, got this placement for you. So that's kind of really interesting to get specific customized reference tracks that you can kind of mimic and emulate if you'd like to. And of course, we're going to partner you and pair you with the library or publishers that essentially are the closest match to your genre and your moods together as well. So based on this track, we're going to give you up to 5 matches. This might change. Maybe we'll give you more. We'll see what we do there. But we'll also kind of decide, of all the libraries that have gotten recent placements matching your tags, which one had the most number that were matching, and that's going to basically give you your overall best library. So for this one, this would be Brand X Music, which would be the best match for them, okay, for this track and for this composer. We'll also get your TV show matches. So this is a list of all the TV shows. I don't know if you can see all of this on the screen on YouTube, but at least on the Zoom call, you guys can see this. You guys will see every single TV show in the last month that we're monitoring that has used your particular style of music, and of course the TV channels that have used it as well. So between all of this information, you should have a really, really good idea on where you fit in, what kind of music gets placed similar to yours, what libraries are basically being active in your style of music. And I think even just a feature like this where we can give you some sync-friendly track titles to kind of just get you started down that road, to get you understanding how to make a title that could be licensable and marketable specifically for this marketplace, could be something that this becomes a sort of just, you finish a track, you got to run it through this system to kind of get all this information and these insights for you. So of course, we're going to give you the overall insights to what's happening in our industry. This is kind of the preview I did the other day. We won't go into too much detail here, but top 20 tracks, you get to click on any single one of them, listen to them, get the placement, listen to the placement being had, and of course all the metadata, and of course the company that supplied it. So top 20 in terms of the number of placements, right? Top 20 longest tracks, okay. Which genres are getting placed the most, which moods, which tempos, which instruments, keys, is it instrumental, vocal genre, all that good stuff. Breaking it all down by genre, if you'd like to do that, just to find out what's happening within a particular genre that you might specialize in, to hear, what are the top tracks getting placed, which libraries are supplying most of those. This is all really interesting, valuable information. This is also going to be a killer part of the app right here, this libraries tab. This is basically all the libraries that we are monitoring with these 10 channels. And by the way, these 10 channels will hopefully grow. We want to basically start small and focus. This is not cheap data to come across. This is very expensive data, so I have to start small. to just kind of prove the concept for this app. And as long as the user base grows and as long as there's kind of a thriving community around this and it's sort of can at least pay for itself, then we can start to add more and more channels and more. Potentially, I'd like to get into streaming monitoring, maybe video games, ads. There's a whole bunch of other things we can kind of get into, but we need to start small. We need to start focused on something that's, basically scalable. And then once we prove the concept, I think we can go up from there. But essentially, all the companies that we are monitoring here, ranked from most placements to the least, are right here. And here's a really cool, interesting, useful feature that you can filter by your genre. So if you're doing bluegrass, you can actually only look at the tracks or the libraries that have supplied bluegrass placements in the last month. So if you're wanting, you see these library directories, I offer one, you do a Google search, you use ChatGPT. Finding companies is probably the easy part. The harder part is, where do I fit in with it, right? Which one of these companies is best for me? Again, looking at their websites can be useful. You can kind of look at their recent placements. That might be helpful. But this app can essentially just narrow it down within a click of a button. It's these 3 companies. If you do bluegrass, check out these 3. These might be the 3 that you want to go check out, okay? And it goes for every single other genre as well. Down tempo. And these are all the genres that we got here, by the way. So if you guys were wondering, I think somebody was asking, are there going to be world genres? Yes, we've got world genres. We've got all kinds of genres. 1, 2, 2.5 pages full, essentially, of genres. So we've got a lot of different opportunities for you guys to find out where you fit into all this, okay? So there you guys go. Quick little teaser of what's going to be coming with Sync Match. And again, don't have a date for it. Not going to set prices right now. Can't tell you about any of that kind of stuff. It won't be free, so I got to let you guys know that. But it will be very, very affordable, okay? I'm going to try to structure this so that all of you, if you're interested in this, can afford it, okay? So I'm definitely not making this in a sort of, top pricing tier kind of a thing. This is going to be a sort of an every producer's kind of a access point for you guys to get access to this information, because I think it's too important for people to not have that. So anyways, that's what we got. If you guys have ideas, suggestions, feedback, anything, please do go ahead and email me, jesse@syncmymusic.com. I love feedback and I love to hear your guys' ideas. As I said before, many of your ideas already have made it into this app. So let's go ahead and jump in. Michelle, let's go. We're going to start from the bottom, going to the top by popular demand last time. We're going to go ahead and just check out some of the tracks. We won't do a full, thorough, in-depth review of every single track, but I do want to kind of give you guys a sort of 10,000 foot view note on, are you going, in my opinion, in a licensable direction? Maybe not so much. What can you do to get in a more licensable direction? Or if you already are, why you're already going in a great licensable direction? That's kind of what we'll focus on today's session. And again, these are just for Sync Academy members who are participating in our Sync Focus program. So let's take a listen to a little bit of this one. Here we go. Beautiful, beautiful track. And I do apologize, guys. I know it might be annoying that I'm skipping ahead sometimes, but I do want to get through quite a few tracks today, so we won't be able to probably listen to tracks all the way through, but I do want to kind of get a sense of, different sections of it. This is Awesome. The vocals, obviously, I'm assuming they're your vocals, beautiful vocals. So keep leaning into your vocals and keep including them on probably everything that you do. I have only a tiny note. I would say probably two tiny notes. One would be it could be a bit shorter. So 250 is a bit long for a track of like this. So I would say there could be some trimming of the fat. There could be a little bit of like you probably only need half of the duration of a lot of these sections. This could be around a 2-minute track, maybe 2:30 at the most. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be this long. So a little bit of just kind of getting to the point a little faster, especially when you have these cool new additions and these new elements kind of creeping into the track and adding to it and building. That's a really, really good thing. You could use a little bit more of maybe a couple more edit points. I noticed obviously this one, but you might want to have one as well. Maybe just one extra one right here to give an editor an option to kind of get out of this intro section into the middle section. That could be an opportunity for you to do that. And then the only other thing would be just it needs more of the orchestral elements. I heard them in there. There was like very, very quiet little staccato strings kind of buried in there. But I almost wanted this to turn into a really loud, epic trailer track with your vocals. It has a cool electronic vibe to it. I think you can keep those electronic drums, but it definitely needs more, I feel, the horns, the strings, just the big epic cinematic trailer vibe that you had kind of sort of it was hinting around that, but it didn't fully deliver that. So if you can provide that, just add that into this, especially for this last section. This last section, I think the energy could really come up quite a bit. If you struggle with that, I don't know if you do. It doesn't sound like you do because it sounds like you've got a really cool kind of hinting towards that direction. But if you do, collaboration opportunity right there is go find somebody that's great with the cinematic, big, epic, orchestral stuff. You bring this amazing, electronic and female vocal vibe with, epic orchestral trailer music, and you're in your own world. You're in your own stratosphere, your own solar system. There's nobody else going to be touching what you guys are doing here. So I think you got a really bright future. A lot of great things to offer here for sure. But I think just, more of the orchestral elements. I think everything else is working wonderfully. And again, just keep going with your vocals. That's what's going to set you apart for sure in this business. So excellent work, Michelle. Thank you so much for submitting. All right, Joseph, check out what you got here. Another SoundCloud one. Let's see. Well, you've definitely done your homework. This has all of the markings of a licensable track. It builds, it's got beautiful tension, it's got this pulsing feeling going throughout it. It doesn't get too repetitive, and has the edit points. I mean, you're definitely following the sort of rules, the structure, the guidelines, the golden rules for making licensable music. So excellent work. You've definitely been, listening and following along and using your reference tracks. So you're definitely going to fit in great into this business. One thing, I love this cool synth that kind of came in towards the end. What it threw me off a bit, though, is that, from the Hardwired, I think that gave a little bit of a sense that we're going to kind of go into this electro synth wave, futuristic kind of vibe. But I didn't get any of that for the first 2/3 of the track. So I almost say keep it, this is a great direction. This is really interesting. Can definitely help carve out a little bit of a unique niche for yourself. But give us a taste of that at the very beginning, that this is going to be glitchy. This is going to be Matrix-y, right? This is going to have something about sci-fi or tech involved with it. Keep all the tension, keep all the darkness. It's I don't know if I'd call this horror. It's not necessarily scary. And haunted, I don't know if haunted is exactly the right. I think we're a little bit off there in our focus for what we're trying to go for here. This is definitely tension. It's definitely anxiety. It definitely gets you on the edge of your seat. But I'm not getting a sort of scary horror feel from this. So I think we basically just need to think of this in terms of more like tension, solving a crime, futuristic drama, that kind of a thing. So I think that's kind of where you're going with this one. If you do want to go into haunted or scary or horror kind of themes or genres or moods, probably go check out a little bit more of those styles of music within some production music libraries that carry it. And I think you might find it's even darker than this. This is definitely got darkness to it, but the scary horror thing, it goes into its own little kind of realm. And there's going to definitely be some use cases for that, but not as much as this. This is actually in a much bigger use case than I think in horror and scary and that kind of stuff. So, but go with obviously where you want to go with this. But I think you're doing amazing things. Just give us more and more hints of this electro, cool, glitchy vibe you got going on here a little earlier on in the track. That would be my only 2 cents for you. But you're doing really, really well here. I think you're going in a really good licensable direction. So keep on it. Definitely great. All right. Peter, let's check out your disco tune here. See what we got going on. Really dig this track, and I was just kind of waiting to get to that chorus just to kind of see, what was the big sort of payoff in the hook delivery. And that chorus coming in, just big, bright energy, and I love the delivery of it. It definitely felt very satisfying from the kind of cool build up here. I think across the board, this is like a fun, strong, great song. I'm not necessarily knowing how licensable it is, and I don't know also, if you compose this specifically for sync, or if this was just kind of an original tune you were coming up with and you're wondering if it will kind of fit into the sync world or whatever. The one thing you got to keep in mind is you got to keep the chorus. I would say you probably want to think about a rewrite on the lyrics. I think the topic is great. I think what you're doing here, I think the kind of love theme obviously that you have going on here obviously works well. But we're kind of going into a little bit of an abstract swiping right. It's a very specific thing, and it kind of like would pull you out of a lot of opportunities as opposed to maybe more of an open general phrase that would kind of give you a little bit more opportunity to get a variety of different placements. So if you want to go in this direction, I think you can, but I think you want to also just make sure that like whatever the lyrics, especially in the chorus, the hook is usually going to be one of the main places they'll probably use it, is that whatever the phrase is, whatever the hook is, whatever the lyrics are, that they're not so specific that they are about a particular thing. So this one would work well for a commercial about an app that people are swiping right, or maybe a scene where a girl or a boy are swiping right or something like that, great. That could be work. But how many of those are out there? Not many, right? So you'd want to have a little bit more of a open kind of way to this, or open approach to this, more interpretive approach to this, that can be applied to a variety of different, people falling in love, people losing love, people looking for somebody in love, right? So you kind of want to just keep it a little bit more open for interpretation. That would be my only kind of 2 cents on this, but I think the vibe is cool. I could probably hear a lot more low end out of the mix. I don't know, at least in my speakers here in my little studio, I hear a lot of the high end mix. It sounds really clean and clear, but the low end wasn't as present. So maybe think about boosting that up. And I think the low end with a little bit more presence would actually add to a lot more just energy with the track. That would definitely help out. So I would see, just kind of depend on where you want to go with this. I would definitely listen to a lot of music. Actually just gave me an idea for the app. I'm glad I'm doing this, because I wonder it'd be interesting if we could have a thing where you could go to the app and say, I want to listen to recent music that's been placed that have female vocals. You could click something like that. So you could actually just go, what's going on with female vocals in the marketplace right now, so that you could get directly to the Spotify. You could go find out what's happening with that track and maybe even get some direct. But I know you could probably actually do that by uploading this track. I mean, I don't know if we necessarily need that feature, but if you just upload this track, it'll notice that it's, female vocals. It'll notice it is kind of like this cool electronic, retro sort of feel, and it'll try to match you with something that's close to this, if there is something that's close to it. So if there's nothing close to this, then it'll kind of let you know that as well. But yeah, that's my only two big notes there. Is just kind of really think about where you want to go with the lyrics on this kind of thing. And if this is a track that was meant for sync, then you're probably open to, restructuring it and editing it and making it a little bit more useful for a variety of placement opportunities. But if it wasn't meant for sync, and this is just kind of more of an original artist track, maybe this one you don't want to, kind of touch too much. But next time you start fresh and you start writing and producing some cool stuff, that might be something just to kind of keep in mind, to not get too specific on what you're singing about, but keep it more about the actual topic of either looking for someone, falling in love, losing someone, that kind of a thing, and create a phrase that kind of really focuses more on the topic rather than on a specific action or a specific scene, like swiping. That would just kind of be my 2 cents there. So excellent work. Excel. All right. Got a track from Excel, SoundCloud one. Take a listen. Really nice track here. It's so funny, as I'm getting into the data for my app, I know that this one would be categorized as neutral. And I was like, well, what's neutral? Is neutral even like a mood? And yes, neutral is definitely a mood. If you listen to a lot of the tracks on the app, you'll see a lot of them come down to neutral. And this is kind of, you put this as a dramedy, and I don't know if I would necessarily consider this dramedy. Dramedy to me It can be used as dramedy. I'm not gonna say it's not necessarily, because for me, dramedy has got a little bit more of the quirky, funny, humorous element to it. Of course, the drama is the other half of it, but I definitely I think this is much more of a. It'd be great for kind of background neutral reality TV show scenes for sure. I do think that you should have more punch with your horn or your strings, the staccato strings, and maybe even a lot of the other orchestral elements as well. They felt a little timid, kind of behind the beat a little bit more. Maybe I want to hear a little bit more dun 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 dun. They're kind of coming out a little bit more. And I would also just advise to all of you guys going in this direction. This is a very saturated style of music. You can get tons of placements, and if you get with the right publisher who has the right connections to some great reality shows, I mean, you can stack up thousands of placements doing exactly this. But just know there's a lot of people that do this. It's kind of right in the middle of a bunch of different people's skill sets, like sort of like this kind of hip hop with some punchy staccato strings. Everybody can do that. It's just kind of like a really, really popular style of music. So I'd say if you are going to go in this direction, take the extra time to make really interesting and creative musical choices to just carve out a little bit more of a unique sonic brand for yourself. So if this track could be produced by 300 other hip hop producers, you're going to be kind of at a disadvantage. But if you create interesting, unique little musical motifs or different just like little riffs and little ideas instead of the dun 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 dun, the things that you kind of always hear in a lot of these tracks. Get a little creative, add extra notes here or there, obviously ones that make sense and are not too out there and odd, but kind of push yourself to do things creatively that maybe you wouldn't have done before, to try to get yourself a little bit more of a unique sound and style. But for sure, licensable. This is across the board licensable, but I would just kind of think a little bit more if dramedy is really where you want to go. It's got to be a little bit funnier, a little bit quirkier, and maybe even a little bit, in some ways, if you're going to go into the drama side of it, it's got to be kind of angrier or a little bit more kind of upsetting. This was chill. This was kind of chill. We were just kind of cruising along, and that can certainly get placed for a variety of places. But I don't know if I'd necessarily classify this one as dramedy. So just kind of word to the wise there, Excel. But excellent work, man. I know you work real hard, so thank you so much for participating, man. All right, let's move on up. Trevor, we got a track from Trevor. And I think I'm usually clicking on the second one. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I'm just clicking on one. So hopefully you guys are cool with that. Take a listen. Really interesting track here, Trevor. And yeah, sorry, YouTube people. I know that you're hearing double. And no, it's not because I'm not wearing headphones. I understand that's probably what a lot of people think. It's an issue with OBS. I've had it forever. I've never been able to fix it, and I'm not going to fix it right now. So sorry. It probably isn't going to sound great just to listen to the music, but anyways, I just can't fix it right now. But I do have some thoughts about this track, though. So I think this is a really, really interesting track in that you are basically going into kind of a. It's definitely minimal. It's kind of got this dark, pulsing energy to it for sure. It's tension, absolutely. But what's interesting about it, and I think it needs to be changed, but I think it's still interesting, is you've structured it like a trailer track. You have 3 acts. You can even see it here visually with the wave file. You know, you have your intro and your middle and your kind of big crescendo, and then you even have this final sting. But the problem with that is if you're going to go into the minimal tension kind of place, you probably don't want to structure it like this. You probably want to kind of get a little bit into, it's almost like this middle section to me would have been the start of the track, because this is where the energy kind of picks up and you start getting going. The first part of it, it was very quiet, by the way. I think you can kind of turn up your volume in the very beginning of the track. It was very, 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 very quiet. So I think you can kind of equalize this a bit more, like bring up the first, 2/3 of the track up. Obviously not as loud as the last third, but bring them up a bit. But I think with minimal intention, you kind of want to just right off the bat, within the first second, boom, we're going into some tension place. And we're going to have even a little bit of a pulsing feeling. It could be a bass or a drum or something that kind of gives you this feeling of forward momentum right off the bat. So I'd say you probably want to start your track here, wipe out this intro. I don't know if this intro is really serving the track that well. And then you probably want to create a new second part. And I don't know if you necessarily need a break in between them. I almost think you can kind of create just a massive buildup from the beginning and have this pause as you had here, and then rise us back up into the final moment. And then I don't necessarily think you need a false ending with another sting. I think for this kind of a thing, you can kind of raise all the way up until you get to the final hit, and then boom, just hit a nice clean ending. I also think this crescendo right here could be cleaned up. It felt like things kind of crescendoed, but not all together. Some parts were kind of fading out. Other instruments kept on going, and then it kind of slowly came back up. I almost think this could be just a much tighter, cleaner 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. Bop. Just something very clean and simple like that. So I almost think that this kind of like some things would drop off and then the other instrument would keep going and then it would kind of slowly come back in. So it just had this very kind of messy feel to it. And I think a cleaner edit, just going right from the one, pausing it, letting a little hit kind of linger for, half a bar, maybe 1 bar, and coming right back up into your final section would be probably where I'd want to go with that kind of thing. So definitely going in a licensable direction, but this would be when I would say a little bit of rework needs to be done. Also, listen to a lot of minimal tension music. If that's what you want to do, it sounds like that's kind of where you want to go. Definitely go listen to a lot of that, Trevor, and kind of pay attention to what its structure is. How loud are the tracks when they start? Do they start this way, or do they kind of start more with an immediate pulse or an intro or something that kind of just pushes the energy forward right off the bat? How many edit points do they put in their tracks, specifically for the libraries, hopefully, that you want to pitch to if you've already got that list narrowed down? And just pay attention to those little things. And also, how do they end their track? Do they have these false endings, or do they, just go to the very end and have a hit? There's a variety of different ways, obviously, you can end tracks. And sometimes, having that extra sting ending can be the right choice. But this one just felt like we confused kind of 2 different styles of sync music. One is the trailer music and the other is the minimal tension. So I'd say just kind of get a little bit more focused, hint, sync focus on the minimal tension kind of track structure. And that would probably serve you a little bit better. All right, Tony, let's take a listen. What do you got going on here? Really interesting track for sure. Originality, yeah, at the top of the list here for sure, because this is really, really interesting, unique. And I think with a little bit of some adjustment, you could make this into a very, very licensable track. I'm a little bit concerned right now, though, that it doesn't have enough focus. It feels like it's kind of split between kind of being a scary, spooky track in the beginning, excuse me, to it kind of mixes into this almost archaic chanting with some great, kind of cool vocals, choir vocals coming in. But it doesn't really have a particular, I don't know exactly where this fits in because it's trying to do a couple of different things at once. So I would say really before you go further down this journey is figure out exactly where you want to fit in. So do you want to fit into the scary, odd phenomenon kind of a vibe? Great. Then I would say you definitely need to go listen and check out some tracks specifically from the libraries that you want to work with and find, horror tracks, paranormal tracks. You can type in all kinds of terms to find this kind of thing and check out how they're structuring it, what they're putting in there, and what else you might need to add to it. I feel like you might need to add a little bit more in the beginning to kind of create a little bit more of a musical direction. It felt like it was more of like tonal and pads and almost sound design, which, could be useful for a particular placement opportunity, but I almost think you would have to go a little bit further with your musical development there to kind of make it interesting for a production music library to take on. And then definitely towards this second half, we really kind of, I don't know exactly where we're going with this. This almost feels like it could have been a different track, which would be very licensable, where you kind of go into these big epic drums, dum, 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 kind of tribal big drums with those great epic choirs, kind of haunted choirs. Almost like you're going into the tomb or something like that, or you're exploring the pyramids or something. You're revealing some ancient text that you just discovered. That for sure, I think that could work as well. But these definitely don't. It feels like it's a little disjointed in a couple of different directions. So I would say for you, before you keep going, is first, and this is why Sync Focus I think has been very powerful. Hopefully for many of you guys, is we do the research first, right? We go look into these libraries. We don't go try and find the at least 3 to 5 companies that we feel have the kinds of music or the types of placements or something about them feels like the right fit for you, and then go listen. We spent, I think it was February or March, one of the two, probably in February, whichever one we were doing reference tracks. And I remember one of my little notes for my presentation was like, don't make music. Just listen to it. Just listen as much as you possibly can. Put it in your car, put it in your headphones, put it on your commute. You're going to bed, you're going for a walk, you're doing your errands, you're doing your chores, whatever. Stop listening to your podcast. Listen to production music, whatever it is. Just wrap your head around all of this kind of beautiful, wonderful music that we are trying to fit into, so that it kind of just seeps into your consciousness, your subconsciousness, your unconsciousness, so that you kind of start to understand and get exactly how to structure this stuff. So I would say, Tony, for you, listening to a lot more music would do you well. You would definitely just be much more prepared and be ready from the ground up for the next track that you compose to know where you should go and to keep yourself focused in that particular lane or specific place. So I think you could certainly do well. You've got the skills, you got some really cool, interesting, unique, original ideas, but now it's, do you fit into the current marketplace? That's really where I want to kind of keep pushing you guys, okay? All right, Sherry, you're next up. We'll go a couple more tracks in here, guys. Thank you so much for hanging with us.
I'm still here.
Yeah, Joseph says can't even skip ahead. Yeah, there's some tracks that they don't let you skip ahead. This was one that I just physically could not skip ahead. I was like, I have to listen to it. And this is what we call undeniable. This is that kind of magic word that we are all after, that when somebody hits play on your track, they just have to sit back in their chair and let it happen to them because you don't want to get away from this. You just want more and more and more of what this is. So vocals killer. As I was a bit surprised when they came in because I didn't hear this strong vocal till right here. My only note, literally pretty much, I have maybe one other tiny note, but like that would be it. Is like get those vocals like within the first 5 seconds so we know immediately this is undeniable, because if somebody only listened to the first couple seconds, they might not have heard that vocal come in, and then they don't know, that this is going to be something amazing. So, but wow, really, really amazing. Great lyrics, great performance. Music is there. The concept is huge. It's perfect for trailers, for film, for promos, and for video games. It kind of does everything you would potentially want it to do. My other tiny note is basically just these last couple of hits could be a little bit more impactful, and it could be just a matter of adding one more extra crash cymbal on these drum hits or whatever's going on here. Just felt like we'd have a little bit more impact there, just bum, 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 bum. And I don't know if it's because things are a little compressed, or just, again, crash cymbals, like literally anything that can just give a little bit more of a smack for those punchy hits at the very end. That would literally be the only thing that I would ever say for this kind of a track. But I think it's just amazing what you've done here. And just give us a little bit more of a hint of the vocals earlier on, and with the lyrics, because I think you just had some kind of ethereal thing going on. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like we're 45 seconds in, and I almost think, this part, that the vocal should have come in right there too, because it's kind of weird that it starts here and then it goes into the vocals. So whatever you got to do, bring in these vocals earlier on. And it can be subdued, stripped down, almost nothing musically, but those vocals got to be in there with some big epic, reverb on them and that kind of a thing, and just let those vocals wash over us, then raise us up into this nice big middle section. That would be my only note here. But yeah, excellent work. Very little Sherry that you need to be doing there. So you obviously do some amazing work. We've reviewed quite a few of your tracks. So excellent work. All right, so let's do 2 more. We'll do Sarah and Samuel. They'll be the last 2 for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us, and I will get to everybody. I know some people still haven't gotten a review, but thanks for your patience. We will get to everybody, I promise. As long as you keep showing up every single month, I will obviously keep showing up every month, and we will get through everybody's review. Another excellent track. Couldn't stop this one. Didn't want to skip forward. I was just getting lost in the groove of it. Really cool, interesting, funky, confident, very fresh. I mean, it's a lot of really interesting character kind of coming out of this track. So I think you're doing some really cool stuff here. Two real small suggestions. I would say the mix could have a little bit more, for me, high end clarity. It felt like the low end got a little bit muddy. And maybe just a little bit more of high end presence can kind of keep this, just kind of add a little bit of crispness to the overall sound of it, because it's got a very rhythmic, upbeat, fun, fresh kind of feeling, and a little bit of more high end presence can kind of maybe accentuate that even more. And I think even some of the low end could be maybe just trimming up a little bit of those low frequencies that might be a little bit overwhelming, maybe not necessary. So it's just kind of like, it's a little bit bass heavy. Maybe we need to like trim a bit back on that bass, go a little bit more in the high direction, but not much. I don't think it's a huge fix, a huge thing. And next would be if you could add simple male vocals to this. It could be female, I guess, but for me, I hear a male vocalist on this, and not full lyrics. You don't have to have like a full verse written out or anything like that, but essentially like catchphrases, taglines that you can kind of throw on top of this every so often. Don't overdo it, but every so often throwing on, one or two or three different taglines that can kind of just add to the, it's kind of like just the character and the personality of this. Definitely would put this track not necessarily just in a potentially background placement opportunity, but I think more in promo and advertisements and that kind of thing, because it's just got great fresh energy, cool interesting synth sounds you're using. You got this really interesting original one of them. There's kind of like this swirling, whirling kind of a cool sound. I like that one a lot. That was really interesting. So I think, keep going in your direction where you're kind of creating this really unique, interesting original sound for yourself. But if you can either collaborate or yourself throw vocals on top, and you don't have to sing it. I mean, literally like rap sing it on top of this track. I think you can kind of be you'd be on a whole new level, and it's something that could be useful for also advertisements and promos and more prominent featured placements as well. So I think you could be in a really strong position with this. So yeah, really excellent though. Really cool. Oh, Sarah, that was you. So obviously, I don't know if you're going to be able to, throw those vocals on yourself. You can try it. Try it out. Like I said, I just heard a male vocalist on top. I could be just hearing things, and try some cool, interesting, confident female vocals on top, and see how that works out as well. So who knows? I'm just off the top of the dome, right? All right, this will be our last one for today. Samuel, let's check out what you got. Epic sci-fi trailer. All right, let's listen. Man, you guys are on a roll. Like, I can't stop any of these tracks. I just want to go along for the ride. This is another one. It just pulled me in, and I was like visually seeing stuff. I could just see all the trailer placements it could potentially get. I was seeing an actual film and a whole adventure unfold in front of me. So really, really nicely done here. Again, I have very minimal notes for this one. I think you're actually going in a great direction. I think this could be a really, really strong cue. Of course, any vocals that you could throw on top of here, kind of like the previous one we saw with Sherry. If you could do something like that, would be even stronger, but I don't think you necessarily have to. I think you're in a really strong position with this. I think it could be trimmed a bit. I feel like this kind of third act right here maybe went a bit long. Like, I didn't feel like it was kind of building enough for me to keep the interest. It felt like, yeah, maybe around here is where we could have had this kind of edit point and bring in and build into the last section. That's a subjective taste on my part. 3 minutes isn't the end of the world. That's not too long for a trailer track, but it kind of, I almost feel like you could go even bigger with this last section. If that's what we're going to do, is keep it at 3 minutes. Is like this last section, even more elements, maybe that's where some vocals can come in, maybe a choir. I don't know, new elements that can kind of just even raise up the energy a bit more. So we really feel like we've reached the top of the sort of roller coaster at the very end, so to speak. But I think you've done some amazing things. The other tiny note, was in this edit point, you had some kind of glitchy sound effect happening. That little coming out of the right side. I would just mute that. I think it's just, you don't need that. Just have this nice sustaining zoom. Kind of feel like we just, got off the edge of a cliff and then rise us back up into this last section. I think that sound effect was just kind of a weird, odd artifact that probably wouldn't be useful for a client because it obviously has a very specific glitchy, futuristic tone. And I don't know if this necessarily is a futuristic, glitchy track. This is much more, to me, adventure, conquering something, exploring something, right? So I don't know if I'm really getting the glitchy, techno, futuristic vibe from this at all. So maybe that's just a misplaced sound effect or something in there that probably wouldn't help you out. But really, really excellent work, guys, across the board. I really appreciate you guys trusting me with your tracks and letting me review it. Obviously, even here publicly on YouTube. You guys have big cojones here on the Cinco de Mayo, on the 5th of May. So we really appreciate you guys being very bold and courageous and letting us kind of pick apart your track. And hopefully, my goal, even though I am honest and I will let you guys know what I think is not working, I do try to always point you guys into a direction of what you can do to fix it, right? It would be ridiculous to just say that's not working and whatever, next track. So I hope you guys always take that criticism and that kind of honest feedback that I give with the sense of I do want you guys to get better, and I do want you to use this feedback and what I'm telling you guys to try to go to that next place to improve your craft. And I really, really always hope that you never feel disheartened, or just discouraged that I kind of really ripped something apart in your track and told you this ain't working. But I also, I cannot be the guy that just says, everything's great, it's all working, it's awesome. Yeah, I could see some placement for this at some point. That really doesn't, I don't feel, do you guys a service. And I know it's hard sometimes for people to give honest feedback because it's like, it's uncomfortable. It's like these people have put their babies out there and it's like you're the one dissecting it and saying, well, here's an imperfection with your child. Who wants to be the person to say that? But I do think that's what you guys are here for, right? I think that you guys are interested in that. You guys are wanting that kind of honesty. So that's what I'm trying to give you guys with these kind of brief overview feedback reviews that we're doing here. And of course, if you guys are wanting more in-depth and consistent reviews like this, and sometimes even much more detailed than this, profeedback.me. That would be the place that you can get more reviews from me and all of our professionals that we have on the platform. So there's a lot of great opportunities for you guys to get consistent feedback like this on a more consistent basis. I know a lot of you guys on YouTube were asking, like, how do I get a track review? Can I send it to you? No, sorry. We get far too many reviews to be able to handle that, but we do have a system and a whole platform in place to be able to do that. So profeedback.me, you guys can sign up. You can learn more about that, what's included with that. I do provide reviews as well. So that's something you can get me, and you can get a lot of other really high quality, very encouraging and very talented sync licensing pros. And many, Sherry and many people here we've been giving reviews are also a part of Pro Feedback. And it's just, for me, it's really cool to see you guys progress and to hear you grow and to see you guys change and morph and evolve as the months and sometimes even years have gone on in that service. We've had it, I think, for 3 years now, going on our 4th. And it's just really cool to see you guys grow and develop and start to get your own relationships in place and get some placements under your belt for many of you. And so we're going to keep that service going forward. And for those of you that want to get more of this, that would be a place to do it. But until then, we will see you guys obviously for our next mastermind Zoom call in Sync Academy. If we go back over to Sync Academy, what I will do is on this events tab, is where I'm going to post the next one. So if you guys want to get access to that inside of Sync Academy, and to potentially find new people to collaborate with and connect with us, it's been some really interesting conversations we've had for those mastermind groups. I will post that probably here at the end of this. I'll let you guys know when that's going to be for this month. And then, of course, we will come back next month for our next kind of topic for Sync Focus 2025. And that'll be, I guess, the official halfway point. Is June halfway, or I guess July maybe is, because June is the full 6 months. So whatever, we're getting there. You guys are obviously chugging along with us, keeping through to the end of this. So we hope you guys can keep with us for the end of the plan here and for the rest of this program. So thank you so much. Thanks for being with me. And of course, I'll have more updates about the Sync Match app as they are ready for you. And thank you for all your encouragement and feedback so far. It's been really cool to see you guys respond to this. Encouraging for me as well. It's been exhausting to do this, but it's really interesting to see. And when I see your guys' eyes light up and you guys getting excited about it, it gives me a little bit more energy to keep pushing this thing to the very finish line. Of course, there never is a finish line. There's always going to be new iterations and new improvements. So thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll catch you guys on the next stream, and we'll let you guys know when that's going to be. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll talk real soon.